at 6 p.m. Clerk, please call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Here. Does this work yet? Here. Oh, wow, brand new.
Here. We have a quorum. I guess, yeah, if you'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Can I introduce somebody else? Oh, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to leave that to you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow, you could feel it in the room today. Alrighty, I'd like each of the board members to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Stressall.
You're an alternate landscape architect?
Ready? Into the mic, please. Ready? Into the mic.
Come on, Fred, you know this.
Come on.
Once it's on, Fred
There you go.
Stressall, landscape architect, and an alternate on the board.
Howard Nelson, I'm a land use and environmental attorney at the law firm of Bills and Sundberg.
Douglas Mead, I'm a business process consultant.
You sound like you didn't know that.
Blaze McGinley, local architect.
Howard Elfman, real estate broker.
I'm Bob Wolf. My day job, I'm a deputy property appraiser for Broad County.
There you go. Okay, I don't see, oh, Mohammed, would you like to introduce the staff?
Bert Ford, zoning chief, with Mohammed Malik, the zoning administrator, and James Hollingsworth, a zoning plans examiner, along with, and Shaquille and Jasmine, administrative assistant.
Rhonda Montoya Hassan with the City Attorney's Office.
Perfect. So I think we have, right now, we're going to review the minutes of last month's meeting, but.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the minutes of last meeting.
I second it.
I think we've got an issue to address. Can someone remind me exactly what the case number was? There was a case where they had 4 variances, and in the motion, we only referenced 3. So they wanted to clarify that we actually approved all 4 variances for that specific.
I can actually tell you that's case PLN-BOA-23010004.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, is it a clarification that the minutes do not reflect what we believe we did?
Exactly. The minutes reflect an approval of 3 variances when I believe the intent was all 4.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for a clarification that the board intended the approval of the 4 variances requested, not just 3.
Is that something that happens in a motion, or we add it to the meeting?
Madam City Attorney,
That should be a motion.
and you've got one.
Do a second. I guess we could call roll on that? I guess we could have done that.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
I don't believe Mr. Mead can vote. He wasn't at the meeting.
Because he wasn't at the meeting, but we still have a quorum without him.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Elfman?
Yes.
Mr. Stressall?
Yes.
And Chair McGinley?
Yes. All righty. And so with that, do we have an approval of the updated?
I've got a motion to approve the
Second.
minutes as amended to reflect the clarification.
So moved this second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
And, Mr. Chairman, I would request a reordering of the agenda. We've got an item that is just an extension of a building permit date that should take 10 seconds at most, which is item number 22070002. And I would suggest that we move that to the front of the agenda so we can get them out of here.
Absolutely. So I'd like to call case number PLN
BOA 220700002.
Mr. Chair, I think staff might have an objection.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
Chair,
I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask, would you like me to swear in all the witnesses before all the hearings begin?
Please.
Anyone who plans on giving any testimony today, if you could stand and raise your right hand, please. Even if you think you may, you don't have to. No? No? Oh. No? Ma'am, you're not going to give testimony? Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth at today's proceedings? Thank you. You may be seated, and please silence all electronic devices.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to start with disclosures, starting with Fred. Fred, do you have any disclosures on case number 4?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have any disclosures on case number 4?
None.
None?
None.
All righty. So is there any presentation, or do we just make a motion to?
I don't know if the applicant's here.
Okay.
Want to come up and say hi?
If we could get your name and address for the record?
Yes, Eric Slazik, 210-011 Johnson Street, Suite 108, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33029.
Mr. Chairman, I've just got one question for Mr. Slazik. Mr. Slazik, is there any reason why Mr. Johnson could not pull the permit within the time frame?
We did have a couple of issues that occurred to us. It was Mr. Johnson was out of the country for a short while, but we ran into some of the problems that everybody is experiencing these days. I'm sorry. So yes, we ran into the problems that most everybody in the industry is running into, and that's scheduling with our engineers getting our geotech reports, surveys, engineer schedules. It just sounds like it's enough time, but it just wasn't. So
I've got a
That's
motion for you
fine.
if you're ready.
Does anyone from the public have any comment? All right, and any comments from the board? Taking selfie.
Chairman, I move that we grant an additional 180-day extension of time under which the applicant has to pull a building permit.
Second.
Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Elfman?
Yes.
Mr. Stressoff?
Yes.
Chair McGinley?
Yes.
Pass 6-0.
All righty. We'll go back up to the front of the line. I'd like to call case PLN.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to call case PLN BOA 230100002. Let's see, disclosures, Mr. Shrestall?
None.
None.
None?
Drive by.
None.
All righty. The applicant, if you could state your name and address for the record?
My name is Josh Abrams. I'm currently living at 2500 Southwest 21st Street.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Abrams begins, Madam City Attorney, this looks like it's going forward as a variance, but there is a separate code provision for this board to approve temporary use of otherwise non-conforming structures. So we're using that criteria, which is a lesser approval criteria than the variance criteria. Basically an unusual use of approval, as long as it's consistent with the neighborhood. No hardship needs to be shown.
yes, Jerry.
You guys got the cheap microphones down there, didn't you?
I heard yes.
Yes, if you can.
Quite simply, my family suffered a house fire in our residence, 2330 Southwest 27th Ave, in May of last year. We moved into a rental property a few blocks away while we rebuilt the house. I erected 2 temporary carport structures, which a lot of the neighbors also have. I didn't realize that a any kind of permit or variance was required for them because they're pretty ubiquitous. Some of my neighbors called code enforcement. I was served with a violation, and I started the variance process to try to make them legal. I want to protect my cars. They're a pretty substantial investment, you know, above and beyond our home. It's probably the biggest investment we've got. It's a beautiful neighborhood. There's a beautiful oak tree that's over the driveways. Everything about it's beautiful except the debris, leaves, branches, bird poop, you name it. It's falling on our cars every day. I'm just trying to protect the vehicles. Once we're back home, we'll park in the garage like we did before. I will take the structures down and nobody will ever see them again. If there's an impending storm, I will remove them and make sure that they're not a hazard to anybody around us. Of course, if there's a storm coming, I don't want them to tear my cars up anyway, so it's in my own best interest to remove them. That's about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, our approval is more directly related to the positioning of them relative to the lot and not necessarily any building code issue.
The temporary nature of it.
Exactly, yeah.
So, sir, I've got to ask you, how temporary is temporary?
Yeah.
As soon as I can rebuild my house, we've been fighting with insurance. We should have a settlement in the next couple of weeks, and I would say not more than a year.
Okay.
That would be my concern too, is if we could find some way to put a time limit on it. We're kind of jumping ahead, so I guess, would you like to reserve time for any rebuttals? If anyone has any comments?
If anybody else has comments, yeah, that's
Perfect. Does anyone here have any?
Let's hear from the public.
I think you might have a board member who's got a comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Blades, I was going to say we ought to hear from the public, but I too share the word temporary as being a bell ringer.
Yep.
Duly noted. Would you like to speak?
Sure. Thank you.
Don't go far.
Yeah.
My name's Charlie Lykoff. I live due west of this house,
Give us an address so we can.
2110 Riverland Road, okay? As Josh said, this is a temporary situation, and I would just go along with what he said. It's probably to the temporary situation, as long as it's lease lasts at this particular location, that would be the length of term of these particular structures. And we would like to ensure, like he said, that any kind of storm that we have, hurricanes, that they would come down, not only the tarps that are covering the metal structure, but also the metal structure itself. But like he said, he would do that to protect his own cars and so forth. So I'm in favor of them staying up as temporary, and I would like the temporary to be, as long as this lease lasts at this particular location, that would be the definition of temporary at this house, so that when he leaves, they go.
Do we know how long the lease is? Do you mind?
Come up to the mic, please.
Just to try to tie it together.
Yeah, I currently have a one-year lease that expires in September. I don't see my house being completed by then. I would say, you know,
A calendar year.
if you can give me a calendar year from today, that would be, you know.
Madam City Attorney, unlike variances, are we allowed to condition temporary authorizations?
So it's an excellent question, Mr. Nelson, and one of my comments on the application was, the application states that it will be removed in quote due course, and I was unsure what that request was. We were looking at the section.
So Chair, the section what you said, it's a non-conforming use. So I understand where you're coming, and I don't know how to tie, this is not a use, this is a non-conforming structure. See, that's where I didn't put it in the non-conforming use.
Got
The
it.
section it relates is for the use itself. But this is a structure, so that's why I said, it's a non-conforming structure.
I'm fine either way. I just want to know if we can condition the approval. I heard half of a proffer of, I would take it down if there's a storm event. We could either get a proffer from the applicant that he would do that as part of the approval, and I'd like to put a time limit on it, either by condition or proffer. And I've got to tell you right now, I'm thinking the end of the lease, which is September.
I think you
And
can
if you're
impose both of
not-
those.
If you're not rebuilt, just come back to the board, and if there's not a million complaints from irate neighbors on the house parties that you're throwing under there, then
With my 10-year-old son and my
with your
wife.
10-year-old son, exactly.
I think the board has the authority to impose those conditions, time limit and
I
the other
don't mind
condition is
the
mentioned.
applicant making the proffer, though.
I don't mind the applicant making a proffer either, I just want to make sure if he didn't, that we could impose conditions.
Can I add something else? The house before he moved in was one of our infamous Airbnbs. It was a party house, so Fred knows the former owner, Jeremy Chanson. It's Jeremy's old house. So he's familiar with the area as far as the vegetation and the things that drop. And it was a party house, and we had to call the law enforcement a number of times after the house was sold to an Airbnb guy. So we're happy to have these folks as neighbors, believe me.
The benefits of being a good neighbor. So if that's all, I'd like to close the public hearing.
I have a
Oh,
Couple questions?
couple questions.
There may be other people who wanted to speak, but that's my take. So.
Why don't you wait and see if members of the
Okay.
public want to speak?
so I'm sorry, were there any other members of the public that like to speak? I gotta get some bifocals.
Hi, I'm Ames Friedman. I'm at 2022 Southwest 25th Terrace, just, I guess, a couple houses down from him. And the house is at a main intersection of our little community there. I know of no other structures that are there like this, and I'm just concerned that this opens the door up for more people in the neighborhood to go ahead and do this. The home does have a two-car garage, like most of us. Some people may be selling their homes, as I might be in the near future. And the structures, aren't very aesthetically kind to the neighborhood, affecting possible value. And again, with it opening up the door for everyone to say yes to this, I don't know of any other structures like this in the neighborhood. And, keeping a car clean is certainly important, but that's what car washes are for. And so I'm just not really seeing the real need over the aesthetic value of the neighborhood and so on. Most of these houses are over $1 million. And to, have this there as we say temporary structure, but as we know construction goes, that often will exceed probably the dates of September. Leases are generally for a longer period of time, and then we're at another year worth of usage, and I'm just not really hearing the need over the responsibility to the neighborhood for a need of a clean car. We all wash our cars, do what we need to do. We all live in the oak trees in that community, and I'm just concerned about value and other interest where everyone's putting up permanent structures, and then you've got all this going on throughout the neighborhood. So I don't really see the ultimate need by the client. Again, there's a garage already that he has, that we all have, so I would prefer not to have it. I'm sure he's a nice gentleman and it's a nice neighbor to have, but that's not where I'm going with that as I state.
Sir, if you've got a second, I do have a couple questions, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name when you introduced it.
My name's Ames Friedman. I live just 2 houses down to the north of this home.
I'm looking at some pictures of the neighborhood, and I'm going to pass you this packet in a second, that purport to be immediately abutting to the southeast corner and in the immediate vicinity, that all have similar looking shade structures on them. I know you said you haven't seen any of these, and if you look at the next 3 pages, have you not seen those in the neighborhood?
This street looks like it to be down Tambark Lane, which is, I don't live on that street, so I don't really have a reason to go by down there. But if you simply look at that structure, it's covered in mold and moss. It looks ragged and teared, and does not do justice to the neighborhood. So by your example of this picture, is this what we want more of in the neighborhood?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I was flipping through the package, I thought that was existing, and I was going to recommend that he make sure and keep it
clean.
tidy. Yeah,
Well, that's the
exactly.
temporary nature of it, I think.
Yeah, and as you look at the different pictures, you see, ruffled edges, poles that, don't look, very sturdy, regardless if there's going to be a move to take them down or a conscious effort to take them down in the storm. And if it was going to be a nice permanent structure, you see the quality of those is far superior to this, and would have no issue with that. But, looking at most of these, they really do no justice to the neighborhood, and if the city's letting these go on, according to what I see here, they don't meet the size requirement, and they don't meet the single car aspect that you have in the guideline. So these should be enforced to be removed.
I don't disagree with you one bit.
The one.
Yeah, even the one, those are, the ones in these photos are doubles, and ones that are even bigger than the size that you show as 10 by 20.
Is 12 by 20 a single or a double?
I'm sorry,
Is a 12 by 20 a single or a double?
it would be a single, and right now I believe that your requirement says that it's a 10 by 20, but either way, the ones in these photos are bigger, are 20 by 20s and things like that these neighbors are using.
And exactly, and the photos that you're referencing are not of this property, but of neighbors.
Others,
Of
the
other
example
properties.
that he just showed me.
But just to kind of make it clear, we're being shown two 12 by 20 temporary shade structures, one of which is compliant, is permitted.
Well, I
and then
believe
it's-
the compliancy says 10 foot, and if they're 12 foot, that exceeds that.
what-
And then
what-
certainly more than one exceeds that.
And we're listening.
More than one definitely exceeds that.
Are you asking if they have a permit?
No, if 10 by 20 is the requirement versus 12 by 20.
We don't really have any requirements for these type of
For the
structures
size, because they're non-compliant.
They're not compliant. I will tell you that a parking space is 8 foot, 8 inches wide by 18 feet
Minimum.
deep, minimum.
All righty, thank you very much.
Okay.
Was there anyone else from the public?
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
If I may, I'd like to address the two-car garage. That is an air-conditioned garage. I am a tenant, not the owner of the property. They did rent the place out as an Airbnb before we moved in. They made that a game room. So the landlord has air hockey and foosball and things like that in the garage as a game room. It's, as a tenant in we rented it fully furnished and agreed in our lease not to make any alterations to the house.
I think we could probably leave it at the tenant. It's not appropriate for a tenant to make major improvements to a property.
And we won't inquire as to whether or not that
No.
improvement's permitted.
No, no,
Because
air
it's not our
conditioning
job at the
garage.
moment.
Thank you very much.
My name is Arlene Alvisionette, and I live on 10 Bark Lane, 2140. And since everyone is showing pictures, I was wondering if you could pass this picture around. This is the entrance to 10 Bark Lane, and on the right is one of the trucks owned by the applicant. 10 Bark Lane at the entrance is one car width. And if you see where that truck is, which is where the car canopy would be, it's within feet of Southwest 21st and the entrance to Tan Bark Lane. At any given time, there's more vehicles on that little road than you can imagine. People are always stopping to let right of way for people coming the other direction. It's a very problematic thing to, on top of that, have a temporary structure held in place by bricks, not anchored in any way to the driveway. As far as live oaks, we all live in Oak River, River Oak. Everyone has oak trees over their property. We also have iguanas, but that's a separate subject. There is a two-car garage there. I don't know what it's been converted to, but there shouldn't be a problem in putting a car in the garage.
That is a good point, and I'm not sure if you're the right person to answer this or not, but if I'm looking at this site plan, you're saying that the entry to the development is at the bottom?
I
of
can't
the-
see that far,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But I'm
I
assuming-
join you in that,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am, since the board, we're going to keep that photo if that's okay,
Sure.
and make that a part of the record as an exhibit,
Absolutely.
since the board has reviewed that.
And I'd also point out that Tambark Lane is RS 3.52, and 2500 Southwest 21st Street is RS 8. It's different zoning, it's different lot sizes. Even if a canopy is encroaching, it's not within 5 feet of the boundary of the property because we all own part of Tambark Lane.
I'm with you. And that is those are good points. I mean, I see in the site plan where the proposed temporary shade structure is set back 5 feet from the property line. Granted, that truck probably wasn't in your photograph, but if
It probably was, actually. It was just taken yesterday.
But the point I'm trying to make is that in the placement of that temporary shade structure, it would need to be compliant with the required setbacks. Which
I'm
would,
sorry, I can't hear as well either.
That's all right. I was just noting that that any proposed temporary shade structure would be required to be 5 foot setback from the property line to address the concerns that you had mentioned relative to the
Right.
adjacency to the street.
But you can see it's all very close.
I agree. You're
And
correct.
also, for what it's worth, there's a whole new construction projects going on in Tanbark Lane. So we're going to have heavy trucks and commercial vehicles going in and out of there. And with the need to back up, move around, let people go by, it's going to be extremely problematic.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions for the, she's not a presenter, the speaker?
Still subject to cross-examination, but I don't.
Alrighty, thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
I commiserate with your lack of sight.
Sight, hearing, everything else, right?
Before I ask the board for any comments,
I'm not sure you've exhausted the.
more?
I don't know.
Do we have any more?
Close the public hearing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so, well, absolutely, come on down. Contentious shade structures.
Hi, my name's Stephen Stella. I live at, I own the house at 2101 Tanbark Lane, which is directly next door to that, since 1982. And this structure does have a two-car garage, and it's being taxed as a two-car garage. And to have two big permanent or temporary awnings there that look terrible. I could see one, but not two. And if he's renting from the people in California or Oregon, and they want to convert their garage to a
Whatever.
game room, you know, they could deconvert it and put one of their cars in there.
Duly noted, thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, going once?
Close the public hearing.
Alrighty, I'd like to close the public hearing. Thank you, Fred. Were there any comments from the board?
I believe the applicant still wanted to reserve time for any rebuttal before there were comments from the board, possibly.
He is waiving his time.
Okay. I'm having a hard time seeing how this is, if you take it away from the variance and put it in the temporary use category, it still needs to be compatible with the neighborhood. and I'm having a hard time figuring out how basically covering the driveway with 2 shade structures for a year is compatible with that neighborhood. That's just me. And that's even the lesser standard of it not being a variance.
I have a couple questions, actually, and I did drive by the property. So I did get to see some of the points that the neighbors made. I do have a question from staff. I know you've been commenting when asked, but I'd like to get your opinion on that as well, because I believe you all have been out to the property. Is there anything that we're missing?
No, we strictly, as employees, we don't have any opinion on Board of Adjustment cases.
There's no staff recommendation.
No staff recommendation on it.
You're
so.
just making sure you're paying attention.
And
All the time, the people ask us, the applicants, we say, no, we don't. It's up to the board and between the applicant.
Come back for a zoning hearing.
And I'm glad to hear that you have no opinions. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Story of my life.
Yeah, and I did have a question originally about the garage, but that actually had already been answered. So, no, I'm good, thank you.
I guess the only comment, first of all, I'd like to, members of the public that came here tonight to voice your opinion, just participate. That's great, it's fantastic. It's a great thing to see. I guess my other thing that was pointed out, and I saw in the packet, that some temporary structures were in the neighborhood. Are those allowed in the neighborhood?
One.
One. And in those cases where there's more than one? I mean, I guess that's just a comment I have as somebody who is in the neighborhood.
The temporary structures are never allowed. Outdoor shade structures are allowed if they meet certain size requirements.
I'm asking as a newbie to the board here.
Yeah, I think, didn't you say, isn't there a code provision in our package?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused, Chair. Where did this came from? One, I mean, the shaded structure, the structure is allowed at different places at different things, but most of the time, I mean, almost all the time, the structure has to be in compliance with the Florida Building Code that can be permitted for the hurricane and whatnot. So those kinds of structures are allowed if they meet all the setback requirements and side setbacks and the Florida Building Code requirements.
Which is why 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these every quarter go to the code enforcement.
So it's because of the way they're anchored to the ground with concrete, you know, things like that.
Structural, and you meet structural lift.
I'm just trying to understand that.
Right, need to meet structural lift
all
criteria.
the zoning requirements of the setbacks.
Okay, okay.
Right. I would say most of the shade structures shown probably are not only not permitted, they're probably not permittable.
Exactly.
Except in a temporary authorization.
And only within the required rear yard.
Right.
So neither of these.
That's the only freestanding structure code that we have.
Okay. So it's not a question of 1 or 2, it's a question of 2 or none.
No,
Right.
it could be a question of 1 or 2.
If we decided.
If a temporary use is different from the freestanding structure provisions that are in the code, 4719-2, I think staff put it in as just illustrative of what the size requirements would be.
Gotcha, I understand. All righty, I'm ready to entertain a motion unless there were more issues.
My only comment,
Oh, Mr. Strauss.
sorry,
Ready?
Yeah, bring it.
I'm new to this, okay? So after 15 years, I usually boil it down to the case of I want or I need. I can tell you that the staff can spin nightmares about coming before the special master at code enforcement for month after month after month, and I don't think we should go there, but I think this is a perfect example of something that somebody wants rather than needs. And it was pointed out with the oak trees that it's time to wash your car. I mean, I washed mine yesterday, so same thing, so.
So you would be talking about the unique hardship section D under the criteria.
Well, remembering that hardship is not potentially really applicable here because it's a temporary use. It's consistency with the neighborhood. But Fred, I've got 2 cars. not because I have a game room in my garage, but because I've got my kids' 5th grade paintings, and they're in their 30s, that I could never fit a car in my garage. I wash my cars weekly because they get dirty.
Follow.
I wash my truck if my truck gets back out of the shop.
So,
If I just make a viewpoint,
Yeah, in the microphone.
sorry, just a viewpoint
I
that,
think we're getting a yellow card. One of us might have been out of bounds.
What happened?
I don't know.
Hi, sorry, I was really taking to heart the gentleman's comment. It's not voting related.
If you want to speak, the public hearings aspect has been closed already. If you had wanted to speak, sir, I would have asked that you come up to speak during the public hearing section.
I was trying to respond to what the gentleman said. I thought it was heartfelt and important, the whole concept of need versus want.
We understand. Thank you very much.
Got people who need to sell their houses, and this gentleman wants to keep his cars clean.
We understand. We really must follow the process, though, you understand. But we understand.
my feeling, I mean, there's pros and cons here, but it's a rental house. If you wanted a garage and keep your cars clean, you should have rented a different house.
So, Mr. Chairman, I've got a motion if you're ready.
Thank you very much.
I would move, and as everybody knows, I only make motions in the affirmative. And if you do not agree with the motion, you can vote in the negative. But I move that we grant the temporary use for a period not to exceed September
of,
of 2023, sorry, which is the termination of the lease, and that the structures be removed in the advent of any major storm.
Inclement weather.
You want,
Major
Mr.
storm.
Nelson, September 1, September 30th?
September 30th, let's be generous on it.
second,
Oh, okay. And then, so we have a second. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Mead?
No?
Mr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Elfman?
No.
Mr. Stressoff?
no.
And Chair McGinley?
No.
Failed 1 to 5.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call agenda item number 2, case number PLN BOA 230200004. I guess we'll start on disclosures for Mr. Stresso.
None.
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 None?
Site visit?
None.
It's your site visit. Good job, man. All right, so do we have a?
Hey, Blaze, I got a question, this attorney.
Sure.
If you spend time on Google looking at the site, does that qualify as a site visit?
It's a virtual site
A
visit.
virtual site visit,
Oh,
yeah.
I got to tell you, Fred, I have missed having you on the board.
It's a virtual site visit.
All right. So do we have an applicant?
Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong?
Ms. Armstrong?
All right, Steve Armstrong, owner of 1208 Mandarin Isle, requesting a variance to allow a garage and a second story on the exact same footprint that the existing garage was built in 1969 and permitted by Fort Lauderdale. It's just inside of the 25-foot setback, but it's on the exact same footprint.
Mr. Armstrong, I've got a question for you. Is your garage and living structure, the new garage and living structure, is it currently under construction?
Yes,
Did you know you were 11 inches over the line when you started construction?
I did not know.
Okay.
The architect drew it up in the exact same footprint. It was not under my understanding that it was outside or inside of the setback.
It sounds like a construction error.
Well, the plan shows it.
The plan was approved.
Permitted?
The plan was approved. Everything was approved by Fort Lauderdale, and it got, the job got shut down once there was a survey done where it was 24.1. But it's the exact same footprint that was approved in 69, which we pulled that permit. And that permit shows it at 25 feet in 1969.
Mr. Armstrong, I would never cut off anybody in the middle of their presentation, but Mr. Chairman, I've got a motion for you whenever you're ready.
Sure, no problem.
Is this the contractor?
Yes.
Yes, sir. My name's Robert Feely, Feely Construction.
I just want to make sure you were on the record. Mr. Nelson?
I don't see asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone from the public? After all that for a shade structure, we get nothing.
That was quick.
I have 4 of my neighbors here.
If they're all in
Oh, okay, you
support,
guys wanna
then
come?
don't
Yeah,
worry.
they're all in support.
I don't even know if I need to be there. I'm loud enough.
There you go.
You need to be there.
You have to deal with the attorney over here otherwise. How's that for a threat?
My name is Leroy Schultz.
Address.
I live at 1213 Mandarin. As of this May, I will have lived there 39 years.
That's not
Older
very
than
long.
you are.
I've been longer than that.
So I've seen some nice things, and I've seen some not nice things. Airbnbs, rentals, people not keeping up with their property. I had a discussion with several of my neighbors over the last 2 weeks, and I can name them, Kim and Paul Oakman, Darrell, Julie, McDaniels, and the list goes on. And we all agree that we have rules and regulations, and we want to follow them. If it was a foot or 2 foot, I'd have a little problem with that. But I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that the garage is in the same spot, and I've lived with this guy, Frank Davis, that owned it. Nobody took offense. And all I can say is that we all agree, the people that I've talked to, we all agree that this variance should be permitted. We hope that you do that and let these good folks get on with their project. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Alrighty, Mr. Nelson.
Anything new and
I just
different?
don't see beating up a resident over sorry, I couldn't see over the new speakers, that's why I stood up. I don't see beating up a resident or a construction project in the middle of construction over 10.5 inches. So I believe this application meets the requirements for the issuance of a variance under a code, and I would recommend approval. And I would move for approval.
Alrighty, can you please call
Second.
roll?
Just don't say anything.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Elfman?
Yes.
Mr. Stressa?
Yes.
And Chair McGinley?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I put a caveat that the contractor gets a measurement date?
There we go.
We'll meet you at the Tiki Hut.
Yeah. Oh, alrighty. I think we have one more.
Got one more.
I'd like to call case PLN BOA 230200005. Charles and Janet.
Yeah, my name's,
I'm so sorry. Any disclosures, Fred?
Fred?
Yes.
Disclosures. Yeah.
Google.
Nothing.
Do you have any disclosures?
No, sorry.
No disclosures.
I drove by the property, although since this was in the back, I couldn't see anything.
Indian boat. None.
All right, thank you very much.
That's why you look at it on Google.
Before he leaves, I would like that guy in the tangerine shirt to come back in.
Make your presentation for you.
My name's Charles Minio. I live at 1524 Southwest 18th Terrace, Fort Lauderdale. I don't know how you would, I don't know how you want to proceed on this. I could tell you how I got in the situation I'm in, if that helps.
That would be a
Quickly,
good
but yes,
idea.
we'd be interested.
I had no architect. I was my own architect. I hired an engineer.
What do they say? God, a guy who tries to build his own building is a
Move a little
fool.
bit farther away from the architect. Sitting over there.
Wait.
He bites.
Okay. I was my own architect. I did my own design, and I hired an engineer. The way that I found out about my issue, because my plans were approved by the city, I was permitted.
That's true.
But I'm not going to say that it was really the city's fault that they missed something, because my engineers failed to provide a site plan showing post-construction. They had a site plan pre-construction, but no site plan post-construction. And if that had been there, then you would have seen that, or somebody would have easily seen that I did not meet a 25-foot setback requirement. That said, we proceeded on construction. My home is built exactly as per plans. That was verified by the spot survey. And the spot survey that I submitted to the city is when I first learned that there was a violation. My argument would be that even though there is technically that code violation in my neighborhood, and we were talking about freestanding shade structures here a minute ago, you are permitted within 10 feet, I believe, of your rear lot line to build a 200-foot shade structure, 12 feet high, 200 square feet. My offending area is less than that. The only difference is my shade structure is attached to my house. It is not freestanding. So if it were 1 inch from my house, it'd be okay. But it happens to be attached. So I think I at least meet kind of the intent. And the fact that my porch is open air. I mean, it's not obstructing anybody's view.
Oh.
In fact, you know,
I don't think anybody can even see it for the most part.
the neighbors to the left and right of me can see it, but they like it.
Mr. Minio, I want to make sure, because I'm seeing the pictures and I'm seeing the plans.
Yes.
What goes into the 25-foot setback? Is it the roof line of the roof canopy?
The roof canopy of the porch.
Okay, and the columns?
And the columns. Correct.
Can I ask our desk a question?
Absolutely.
If this was not poured concrete and it was raised up in wood and a deck, would it be legal?
Not as a structure.
Well, the roof structure wouldn't be.
I think if it has a roof.
Is it going to be, your question is, if it has a roof or not?
Oh, so just the roof itself is the problem.
roof structure.
The roof itself is
The
the problem.
roof.
What
yeah.
triggered it
How-
was the roof.
However, I sort of have a question, because I'm a little confounded by what I see in my own neighborhood. I looked at 7 houses that are next to me along the canals on either side of my street. That's 14 homes. Of the 14 homes, only 3 comply with that setback. And of the ones that don't comply, we're not talking about a porch, we're talking about a house. So I'm completely compatible with my neighborhood. And yet I don't know if these are grandfathered. I don't know when the 25-foot setback came about.
Bert, is this an annexed area?
Annexed.
No,
No?
it's in an RSA, which is city zoning.
Okay.
And there is a new structure that was built, it's on 18th Street, not 18th Terrace, on 18th Street, backs up to a waterway. It probably was completed, it was a house that was gutted, completely rebuilt. They completely changed the design of the home. It's within 15 feet of the waterway. I don't know if they sought a variance up front. They clearly must have, because they were able to build this home.
I've got a question here. So I'm looking at the assembly that was chosen for the roof, and to be honest, you know, it's not going to last forever, if you follow what I'm saying. Like it's definitely, you know, it's wood, it's exposed to the elements, and so in the next 20 to 30 years, it will need a major replacement. And so is there an opportunity for us to put a condition on it to say, if it is re-roofed, if
Can't be replaced?
Yeah, that it
Okay.
can't be replaced?
Well,
Isn't that-
I'm also looking at the structure and noticing that the support beams are 2-3 feet in off of the edge of the roof,
Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
which just could be trimmed back.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, that does represent a significant amount of work relative to waterproofing and.
Blaze, are you looking at, maybe the picture that says the rear addition?
Rear addition viewed straight on,
Yeah,
this one?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking we should put that on, if you got a,
Viewed straight on.
And I don't know if there's any equity to take into consideration here, but
Sure.
when I purchased this home, there were 13 major code violations. There was a porch in the front that I had ripped off because it was encroaching on the front setback by probably 10 feet. Numerous other code violations, and you've got a major improved property for the city, and
Noted. I understand.
This was just built?
just built. And in fact, my house is also under contract to be sold.
It is currently.
It's currently under contract.
Great. All right, Mr. Nelson, this is a tough one.
Chair.
Or, I'm sorry, questions from the board? Questions from staff?
No, not question. I just want to clarify a little bit about this. I have one question, because I was just going through. You don't have any other structure in your backyard, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So since this is a whole structure going all the way to the back of the house and attached.
Connecting.
It is being treated as
As part of the
extension part of the house. If it was an independent structure standing 200 square foot could be by itself standing in the backyard, which could be, 10 foot away from the waterway, like a tiki hut, shaded structure, gazebo can be there in there if it's independently standing structure.
Is this 200 square feet?
Looks bigger than that.
The offending area is less than 200 square.
Yeah, 200 feet within the setbacks. I don't have the exact number. I think, yes, they are. I was just doing a rough calculation. 30, approximately 30 by 5 feet, which comes to 150, 160
Sorry,
square
30.
feet.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mohammed, you're saying if it was detached,
Detached.
Yeah, if it were
Yes.
detached,
that
it
it
would
would
be
be
fine.
okay?
Yes.
And you made that point earlier.
And
Thank you very much.
That's
yeah.
under section 4719(2). P.
Yes.
I like that.
I got a motion. You ready for one?
I guess
Well,
I
I
want to
have
ask
one
the
comment
question
before
is,
you
how
motion,
did it
Howard.
get approved at the city?
We got a pre-motion comment.
Yeah.
Just a comment, and it's just a clarification. I have actually been in that home. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at the pictures, realize when you had it for sale, I showed it. So
You did?
I have been in the home.
Good
But you
disclosure.
are not currently involved.
You're not
in
representing the
this-
current buyer.
I'm not representing the current
Thank
buyer.
you
I
very
have
much.
been in the home.
Okay.
Just the pictures just jogged my memory.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a motion for you,
Please.
unless you want to see if any member of the public wants to speak. Young
The-
lady?
The only member of the public?
Basically.
You actually, you have I don't know if you saw, you have a letter from my adjoining 4 neighbors as well?
Yes.
Mhm. We
Okay.
saw 'em.
Thank you.
Okay.
How about if we,
Based upon the permitting approval, notwithstanding the fact that the as-built doesn't meet the plan set, and the calculation that the nonconformity would have been allowed under a freestanding structure rule, I believe this presents a unique set of circumstances and a hardship because it's already constructed that would meet the criteria for a variance under this code, and I would move approval of the variance as requested.
Second.
discussion?
Please call the roll. Oh,
Discussion?
sorry.
I think that Mohammed, staff's comment was that if it was a freestanding structure, that it would be permitted.
Correct.
And since it's attached to the house and it is open air, I think that our motion should recognize that it is open and cannot ever be enclosed, or it
I'll
becomes
take that
part
as
of
a
the
friendly
structure.
amendment. I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
That's an excellent point.
I'll keep it the second.
That's a great point.
Thank you, Mr. Stressel. I think we can call the roll.
Well, just clarification.
You know what? I'm
You're
totally
doing
understand.
really well. You should.
No, yeah,
you
take
should
it,
relax for a second.
take the W.
All right, but
Doing really well.
I understand, but the only thing
No.
is.
Nope.
Okay.
Don't say anything.
All right, I won't say. Okay, I won't say anything.
Ready?
Please.
I'm sorry, can we do another amendment to that?
Maybe.
That if it needs to be remedied, cannot be replaced? If it has to be materially
No, it
repaired?
needs to be materially or substantively replaced.
Yes,
It would need to meet the setback requirements.
yes.
Still second.
We zigged and zagged there. Did you get all that?
Yeah, just if it needs to be replaced, it will have to be.
And the previous one. We threw two curveballs at you.
And it can't be.
Thanks, guys. All right. So, and we got a second? All
Yes.
right, so now I think we're ready for the roll.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Elfman?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Stressa?
Yes.
And Chair McGinley?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you.
All righty.
Chairman, oh shit, we gotta see good of the city. I was gonna move for.
No.
I was gonna move for
I know you're all
adjournment.
excited. So, do we have any communications to the city commission? I've got one. I'd like to ask, there was a request by one of the board members to clarify the future of the seating arrangements, if the commission had planned to keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2. And we were just we just wanted to see what the city's plan was relative to how they were going to organize this so we can address any concerns of board members' visibility.
How the commission is?
Yeah, because
How
we
the
were gonna-
commission's gonna handle their seating?
Yeah, because what I would like to do is, there was a request to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to sit, and which I think is valid. But at the same time, I didn't want to make any extra work for city staff to have to rearrange seats. And so if it's the commission's intent to keep this number, then we would follow the same. But if they had a plan on bringing it
Mr.
back.
Chairman, I would be happy to sit at the kids' table
Exactly,
if
so.
there's a crowd up here.
You're too close to the microphone. Can't do that.
Before we do adjourn, can I ask staff for a personal favor? The last applicant, he's going for final inspection so he can clear for his approval. Can we get an order out quickly so he can make his final inspection and get his house closing? You're a nice guy.
I know,
I am a
holy
nice guy.
moly.
Shaquilla,
Once a year,
Final
I
order.
am a nice guy.
Yeah, for this particular one.
if the chair wishes to sign it, as soon as we get it, we are going to send it to your place of business or home. If you can sign it, if everybody agrees.
So typically it takes 30 days. However, once it's reviewed, then you're able to sign it, that's fine.
And I'm available.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck with the sale.
All righty, motion to adjourn?
So moved. Adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.